So off I go with my books in my arm and my little windbreaker and my nice press pants and headed up there, and I look, and there's passenger carriers and jeeps and armed guards with bayonets and everything. And I couldn't believe it. I didn't have a real fondness for police over the years anyway, but this was more than I could understand at all. And, you know, you kept hearing the rumblings there was going to be a demonstration, and the professors would say, you know, avoid it, don't go near it, they're going to stop it. And I did have a class in that area, but I think I would have gone anyway because that was my nature, just to find out what was going on. So as soon as they started ringing the bell, I was there. And it was shortly thereafter that the guard were there too. So, and not being a participant, I kind of moved up the hill, but I happened to choose the wrong location to go up. So by the time they started firing the tear gas, I was at the top of Taylor Hill. And as they proceeded to chase the students up the hill after a few minutes of back and forth, throwing tear gas and stones and yelling and swearing, and here they come. So I decided it was time to go to Taylor Hall. So I walked up to the door, walked in, but the door didn't open. There were people standing in front of the door, but nobody would let me in. So there I am, standing, trapped in front of Taylor Hall. Here comes the students that they were chasing, and here comes the National Guard, and they just walked right by me. They weren't concerned with us, you know, the innocent bystanders standing there at Taylor Hall or by Johnson Dormitory on the opposite side. So we just stood there as observers to it all and watched them march down into the practice field and chased Alan and the rest down into the parking lot and the field. And then it just stopped, you know. I thought I heard a gunshot go off down there, but you weren't sure because nothing came of it. The next thing I know, here they come back again. So I'm standing there, and you can't go in the building, can't go towards them, you can't go back down to the commons because there's more down there, so you just stood there. So I stationed myself about at the metal sculpture that ended up having the bullet hole to the 1-inch armor, this iron-plated metal there. As they're coming up the hill, the students were following them up, but it wasn't a rapid pursuit, and they weren't even close. I didn't think I was closer to them than the rest of them were. And as they're moving up the hill, there was just one person that stood out in my mind, and later on he was identified as Sergeant Myron Pryor. And he was the last one going up the hill, following his unit up there. And as he was going up, he kept swinging around. You could just feel the anger in his, you couldn't see his face, but you could just feel it in his movements. You know, somebody throw a rock, he'd bend down, pick it up, throw it back. I couldn't hear what he was saying, but you could tell he was calling them out. He wanted somebody to get close enough that he could hurt him. And just as he passed in front of me, horror just went over my body, and I couldn't imagine what was going to happen, you know, but things were getting too close for me. So I started backing up, climbed over the railing at Taylor Hall, and just as I got over the railing, I was still watching them. I saw them shoot, and they just all opened up. I started running. I ran behind the pillars in front of Taylor Hall, but by the time I got back there, it was all over. I looked out in front of me, and everyone was laying on the ground. I thought, oh my God, they shot everyone. I couldn't believe there were so many bodies on the ground there. And then everybody started getting up, and everybody saying, well, they're using blanks, they're using rubber bullets, you know. And kind of a sense of relief went over me there for a minute because, you know, we were just fooled. And then you look, and there were two people closest to me are laying there bleeding. And you just realized there were people shot here. And I couldn't believe it. You just stood there in horror. And by the time I worked myself up to go over and see who was shot, the one gentleman was standing next to me behind the sculpture. The other one was in front of the sculpture. There were people helping them. At that time, I saw Jeffrey Miller laying in the driveway. I didn't know any of these people. They were all unfamiliar with me. None of them seemed like radicals. The only familiar face that I remembered in afterthought was probably Alan Camfor's face. And I didn't think he was a big wheel at the time or anything. I thought he was more prominent after all this. So as far as radical people there, I didn't think any of them were radical. But as I walked down and stood there, in fact, I was standing next to John Philo when he took the picture, but I didn't realize he was taking the picture, and you just knew there was nothing you could do for Jeffrey Miller, and you just stood there helpless. There was nothing to do. And